Hi, this is just a grading response for everybody to the French Revolution connection charts, the timeline exercise that we just completed for week 12. This was first put together about 10 years ago when I first started teaching AP European history. I had not taken a European history course ever. I hadn't even read a book on the French Revolution, but I was supposed to teach it. So the only way I could figure stuff out was scratching out little charts like this in order to put things in a different perspective. And I'm hoping that it'll be helpful for you as well. The way the charts are constructed, of course, as you were struggling through them, hopefully you notice the causes and the pluses, the words in those arrows that sort of lead you through the events. Most people in this first one did well. They were able to connect at least the circle of things here to know that it was the calling of the estates and the fact that the estates could not decide how to vote that led to the tennis court oath. Some of the things that were switched, though, were some people missed the too many wars, too much debt, and that I sort of can't understand, other than that they don't know what wars we're referring to. But these are, of course, the wars of the 18th century, the 7 Years' War, the American Revolution that built up the debt of France, and that debt, plus the fact that the bourgeois would not pay, did not want to pay all the taxes. That leads to tax reform being needed. Some people put these things in different places, but I think it's the combination of the fact that there was too much debt and that the bourgeois was not willing to pay anything. If the bourgeois was willing to pay, then this wouldn't be a problem. That wouldn't need the tax reform. And of course, you need to have that tax reform connected by a causes with the calling of the estates. It is only that tax reform that led directly to the calling of the estates general. This second chart caused some problems with people, and I think it's because of one of the things is the connection with time and the way in which you would put certain events at one end or the other. It might make sense to think of these things as multiple choice questions in a way, meaning that there really is only one location for each item. It can't fit anywhere else. Sort of like a multiple choice question, you could make an argument perhaps that a teaser is correct, but that in the long run that doesn't work. There is something in the answer that makes it the best answer, the best choice, and there's something in the teaser that makes it the teaser. For instance here, the relationship between the event of the August decrees and that the king does not approve them, and the Declaration of Rights in Man and the king does not approve them. Notice how those two pluses are there and then fit into that box where the king does not approve the Declaration or the August decrees. Some of these, some of your timelines had this before. You know, these are timelines reading left to right. Some people had these not approving the declaration or the decrees before they were even issued. One thing you can do, and I'm surprised that more people didn't do this, is just go to Wikipedia, because you can trust their dates, and just pull out the dates. And when you do that, you can see that the March on Versailles is in October. That's got to be at the end. Whereas the Great Fear, the storming of the Bastille, that July and August chain of events fit directly into that framework. So that's one thing that you can do to help with these. But the other thing is just to think about the relationship between them. It was the fact that there were rumors that the king was going to put down a rebellion to call out the army. The fact that he wasn't supporting the assembly that was meeting with the tennis court oath. That combination caused the storming of the Bastille. And the reason that the Bastille has to be down in this block is because you have to have the causal relationship with that and the Great Fear. The Great Fear is a rural event. It happens in the countryside. It occurs after the storming of the Bastille, if you just want to put it on a date sequence. But also you can see the causal relationship there. There was a great deal of unrest, there was a great deal of uncertainty, and once the people in the countryside hear that they put the combination of the king pulling out, the rumors that the king's going to bring out the army, and that there is urban unrest in Paris and that the Bastille has been stormed, those two things together cause the Great Fear. And keep in mind also the relationship between the Great Fear and the nobles giving up their rights. The Great Fear was if you look into the details of that event and look at the fact that, you know, peasants were storming manor houses, and what they were really after was the records of their indenture. They were True, they were attacking the wine cellars. Yes, there was a lot of looting and pillaging going on. There was a lot of anger against the upper class that was directed in the Great Fear. But there was also a very practical component of it, and that was that the legal documents that secure a peasant's obligation to a lord or to the land were in a safe, were in a drawer, were somewhere in that manor house, and they were going to be destroyed. The Great Fear itself is a causal component of the nobles giving up their rights. When they were giving up their rights with the August decrees, they were giving up something they were losing anyway. So you really would have to have that after the Great Fear. So that's how that second chart works out. This is the third of our charts, and the one that seemed to cause the most amount of trouble. Some people seem, because they had a few things out of place, ended up having the majority of the chart incorrect. So this is the explanation of it. I guess the thing to notice here is that as you're looking through the list of events that you have to populate this chart with, you should know that 4 of them sit as a group, all causing one other big event. And then that event itself, added to a series of 3 things, will also cause a fourth event. So the trick might be finding out, as you look through this list, what things fall into these 2 big boxes. The other thing that you could do, and I'm again surprised that more people don't think out of the box, just figure out ways to solve problems. If you've got a list of events and you have to populate something like this, why don't you go to Wikipedia, find out the dates, and throw them in? Because if you've got the Reign of Terror and you've got France going to war, that date relationship, the fact that the war happens before the Reign of Terror, would make it easy to know that that goes on that side. Or you can at least put the Declaration of Pillnitz and put a date in it. No matter what happens, since that has an August 1791 date and that the Reign of Terror has a June 93 date, wherever they fit in whatever box, those 2 events, this one, the Declaration of Pillnitz, will end up on the left-hand side of the Reign of Terror, because the way the timeline goes right to or left to right. If you look at the rest of the chart itself, each of these events together cause France to go to war. And it's interesting that you would have people on the left, the revolutionaries, and people on the right, the emigres, both supporting a war. Even the king is supporting the war. And if you look at the reasons there, he knows that if France loses the war, then the revolution is over, and he gets his throne back. He would be restored by the monarchies of Europe. His brother-in-law, Leopold, would put him on the throne, and that's why he supports the war. The emigres also know that if France loses the war, they'll get their land back. And the revolutionaries are looking for the war to energize the population, to continue the revolution and perhaps take it beyond the borders of France. The radicals, of course, will think about this as a revolution that will spread all across Europe. And, of course, the Declaration of Pillnitz. As we put those as causes for the war, then we get into this center section. And these are all the causes of the Reign of Terror, and some of them are related in interesting ways. If you have emigres who know that if France loses the war, they get their land back, how can you trust those people in a war? Let's say that there's an emigre that's left in Austria, they're writing letters back to their family who did not leave. Those people might not support the war, and if you have to win the war, you're going to go through any measure to win the war, which is one of the reasons why the Reign of Terror came about. In grading the other lesson, in which was the Reign of Terror necessary, I was really surprised how many of you did not mention the war. I mean, the Reign of Terror arising during the wars of France against most of Europe. That's a integral component of it. The Reign of Terror would not have come about had it not been for the war. The fact that the French were losing armies, that they were increasing debt because of the war, because there were food shortages. Well, if there's a food shortage, that could be sabotage. There could be a farmer out there who's destroying his crops because he wants France to lose the war. Maybe he's related to emigres who will get their land back, or he's a monarchist and he wants to see the old regime return. Those food shortages might be sabotage. You want to make sure that farmer knows that he has to support the war. That's what leads to the Reign of Terror. The connection between these 2 events here, revolutionaries thinking that the war will energize the population, that's the reason that the sans-culottes would be there. And of course, the people on the left supporting the radicals, that is another cause of the Reign of Terror. And the reason that causal relationship is there is just to keep yourself in tune with the idea that the revolutionaries that are supporting the war to make France go to war with most of Europe are also the ones that believe that anything is necessary to win that war, which leads to the Reign of Terror. So I'm hoping you'll look up your old, download the graded version of your timeline. Just take a look at what you submitted and compare it against this. It might be a good way to study for the test. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the Have a Question thread or your private thread. Thanks.